chronic pain and inflammation and even the aging process in general has to do with this gradual year in, year out process of demineralization of the bones, the teeth, the soft tissue structures like our joints. And this happens because the environment we live in and the foods we're consuming in general are acidic. Everything that we love to eat is pretty much acidic. So meat, carbs, different pastas and breads and dairy and coffee and tea and alcohol, all these things, sugar, all these things basically acidify. Is that a word? Make our blood in an acidic state. And the body has to buffer that acid. So it will do that naturally by pulling minerals out of your bones and out of your teeth. And over time, this weakens the structures, as you might imagine, right? That's what osteoporosis is. It's holes in your bones, basically. And so by consuming things like bone broth, we can slow down this process. We can remineralize the body. And especially if we stop doing the things that cause us to become acidic inside, we can actually reverse it and remineralize instead of just kind of stay at the same place, not demineralize, but not remineralize. Anyway, so I think that's pretty exciting that you can actually turn things around and really improve the physical structure of your body over time with things like bone broth. So in this video, I'm going to talk about why we want to consume bone broth, how to make it at home, and then at the end, I have a couple tips that I learned from making it. I've been making it at home every week for 2 years now. I make a huge pot, and then I make soup out of it. And so then all week we're eating soup with this bone broth in it. And I feel like I've noticed a big difference in how I feel, like when I exercise, and the recovery time afterwards seems shorter. I feel like I don't get as sore and achy, like knees, for instance, have been kind of a thing for me, one of my knees, and I feel like that has improved in the last 2 years. And then I also feel like skin and hair are improved, just like my skin maybe doesn't seem quite as dry, and it seems like my hair is softer and less dry as well. And I think that has to do with the fact that bone broth has collagen and gelatin in it, like a great amount. Like when I chill my bone broth, it turns into jelly. So it's basically like straight gelatin. And as you know, like collagen declines in our skin as we age. And so by consuming bone broth, you're going to kind of slow that process down. Another reason why it's great to consume this regularly is because it's full of minerals, and minerals that we can really absorb easily. So the supplements that are sold in the store, and things that these tablets that people get, your calcium supplement, and it comes in this big hard tablet, those are not bioavailable. So we don't really know how much a person is absorbing when they take supplements like that. There are some supplements that are better, that are made of more food products in their natural state. But like just straight calcium from who knows where is actually can do more harm than good. So it's really important to try to consume these minerals that we need in the whole matrix that they are packaged in naturally. So bone broth is a way to do that. In it, you're going to get your magnesium, calcium, potassium, phosphorus, iron, zinc, copper, manganese, all of these things that we really need to be consuming on a daily basis, and we need our bodies to be able to absorb it. And so that's a great way to do it, and it's affordable. The supplements can be really expensive, and again, you can be wasting some of them because you're not digesting it. So bone broth, I think, can save people time too. The other thing is why these minerals are so important is they regulate pretty much every system in the body. They regulate our nervous system, how our muscles function. They help produce DNA and RNA. They regulate blood sugar levels, our bone health, synthesize proteins, which we need for pretty much every bodily process. So really, I think people think a lot about vitamins and supplementing with vitamins, but actually you need the minerals to absorb the vitamins and vice versa. Like sometimes you can't absorb a certain mineral without the right vitamin. So like vitamin D and calcium. So yeah, that's a little bit about why you might want to be motivated to make it at home. Other thing is you know what you're getting. Like these bone broths in the store, you can buy them in the store, and I think it's probably better to buy them ready-made at the store than not consume it at all. But also you're not really sure what you're getting. And it's also packaged in plastic, so you're going to be getting some of that, those chemicals from the plastic. So when you make it at home, you don't have to worry about that. And so let's go over how to make it. It's really simple. You need bones, you need water, and you need something to cook it in. And then there's a couple other little things I like to add, which I'll say in a second. But for the bones, in this video, I'm going to show some footage of me making bone broth at home, and I'm using beef knuckle bones, or knuckle bones? No, femur and knee bones. Those are the biggest bones on the cow, and it makes great bone broth. You can use chicken bones, of course. That's really great. When I make chicken bone broth, I like to include feet, and if you can include a head, supposedly. I don't use chickens, like I don't butcher them myself, so I use a whole chicken, but it doesn't have the head. But the head is really rich in gelatin and collagen, so it's great to include all that stuff that is kind of disgusting to see for a lot of people, but it's actually some of the best parts, again, like the feet. So yeah, I don't use pork. I don't really consume pork that often, but pork is another great bone to use. And then fish, of course, you can make fish bone broth. I haven't done that often because I don't eat a lot of non-fatty fish. You don't want to use the fatty fish like salmon or halibut to make mackerel, to make fish bone broth, because the fats go rancid as you're cooking. So you want to use like a light white meat fish bone for those. So what you're going to do is you're going to get your stock pot, you're going to fill it with water, and it's really important to use filtered water. As you all know, we have a contaminated water supply here in the United States. Especially recently, they've just found that most of the cities in the country are contaminated with PFAS, something that is destructive to our endocrine system, our hormones. And so it's really important, especially now, to filter your water. I remember this doctor that I met in Costa Rica. He's a really interesting, kind of eccentric guy, and he would say, you know, you get a filter or you be a filter. And that really stuck with me because it's true. Like, the stuff that's in the water is going to stay in the filter or it's going to stay in you. So yeah, make sure that you get either a filter that you can stick on your sink or one of those pitchers, or like if you have a health food store in your town, a lot of times they have those distilled water dispensers and you can buy water there. And so what you want to do is you fill your stock pot with water. And a word about stock pots too. Try to find a stainless steel stock pot or a ceramic coated stock pot. Really avoid at all costs cooking in aluminum or copper. Aluminum's a neurotoxin, and it's been correlated with things like with neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's. I'm not saying it causes those diseases, but it's definitely not helping. So you want to avoid cooking in aluminum. You want to avoid cooking in copper because copper is a great mineral we need, but it's also easy to overdo it, and that can cause health problems as well. So choose stainless steel. A little trick that I learned is if you want to test if your pot is stainless steel, you take a magnet and you see if it sticks on there, and if it sticks, then it's stainless steel. If not, it's some kind of alloy, meaning mixed metals, and you have no idea what those other metals might be. So you fill your pot with filtered water. You take your bones. I use, again in this video, the beef knuckles. Why do I keep saying knuckles? The beef femurs and knees, and I broil them first. This makes the broth a little bit tastier. So you just stick them on a pan that you know can handle 500-degree heat. I use cast iron here. And you stick them in the oven and you broil them on each side for 5 minutes, and then you add those bones to your water. I also like to add a half a cup to a quarter cup, depending on the size of the stock pot, apple cider vinegar. And this is going to help leach the minerals that you want in your broth out of the bones. Much like how I mentioned earlier, things like coffee and tea and acidic foods leach minerals out of our bones. You're going to do that in your stock pot, and it's going to be beneficial to you. And then you're going to cook. I don't add salt at this point. I usually add salt just a few hours at the end of cooking. So you're going to cook your stock with a lid on, and for bigger bones like beef or lamb, it needs to cook for 24 to 48 hours, which seems like a really long time, but that's what you want, is that low, slow extraction of the minerals. And I have an electric stove, so I feel comfortable to leave my bone broth cooking throughout the night or when I'm out of the house. If you have gas, you might not feel comfortable doing that. You can get a hot plate and do it on the electric hot plate, or you could do it in a crock pot or an Instapot. You could still do it on gas if you feel comfortable, and then I guess, you could shut it off when you leave the house if you want, and then if you do that, bring it back to a boil when you come home, and you can continue cooking it. You're going to cook the bones in the water for 12 to 24 hours. I go for, I'm sorry, not 12 to 24, 24 to 48 hours for beef bones. You're going to strain the bones out using a stainless steel strainer, and then you can store it in mason jars in the fridge. I just go right from straining the broth to making a soup with it. The other thing that I thought I'd mention at the end here is to make your broth a little tastier. You can add veggies, but I use this thing called a veggie scrap bag, which I learned from this chef at a restaurant I worked. So you take, as you're cooking throughout the week and you're chopping your onions and you're peeling your potatoes and stuff, you take all those scraps and you put them in a Ziploc bag, and then you just keep it in the freezer throughout the week. And so, or 2 weeks, or however long it takes you to fill the bag. And then about 3 hours before you're done cooking your broth, you're going to add all those veggies in. And then this gives the broth, it makes it smell so good while it's cooking. It tastes so much better, so much richer. So I do this every time I make my bone broth. The two things you should know, though, are once you do the veggies in there, the broth doesn't last as long, so you want to use it within a week. And then without veggies in it, can last up to 2 weeks in the fridge. The other thing is that the veggies that you want to use are pretty specific. You want to use carrots, onions, garlic, celery. You can use like mushroom stems or a little bit of ginger, but you don't want to use anything cruciferous, so nothing like broccoli, collards, cabbage, Brussels sprouts. Anything like that's going to make it taste funny, and it kind of ends up smelling like feet. So none of those veggies are good for the veggie stock bag. So that's it for now. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments. And then also in my description is a link to this info sheet that I made about the exact recipe, how to make the bone broth, and depending on the bones that you want to use. And then more info about the veggie stock bag. And I think that's it. So thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.